welcome to MetroCasting. I'm Doug Farley. We're here with local writer, historian, sports guy, runner, enthusiast. This is Max Furek, and he's here to talk about his new book, and it's called Sheppton, The Myth, Miracle, and Music.
Right.
So how are you?
Really good. Thanks for inviting me, Doug. I really appreciate this, and Happy New Year.
And you as well.
Yeah.
Normally we are talking to you about running things or
Right.
something with the Berwick Anti-Drug Association, because you're very involved in both of those like that. This is a little bit different for you. You have written before.
Yeah.
But this is a new subject, Sheppton. Why Sheppton, the Sheppton mine disaster? Why get into this after 53 years?
Well, first of all, I know that there's been at least 2 books written about Sheppton, plus several documentaries, but I always felt that the real story about Sheppton had never been told. And I had been working on this project for years, and I decided about a year and a half ago that I put so much energy into it and so much time that I needed to go and just finalize the project. So the last year and a half I really was pretty diligent in finishing this.
You mentioned you wanted to tell the real story, because the story everybody knows is that the 3 guys were in the mine, and,
Right.
and 2 were saved, 1 was never found. So what's the real story behind this?
Well,
obviously, we want to read the book without giving too much away.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. First of all, these are my souvenir paperweights.
Yeah.
I use these as a promotional attempt down there in Schuylkill County. But the book is called Sheppton, The Myth, Miracle, and Music. But I really wanted to call it the Sheppton Mythology.
Okay, why?
I wanted to call it the Sheppton Mythology because I think it resonates on so many different levels. The miraculous. There's themes of that the miracle happened down there in the tomb. The supernatural, for example, the miners said that they saw the vision. They saw Pope John the 23rd in the tomb, in the mine, and they said that he saved their lives. And there were Vatican scholars and researchers that have attributed Sheppton to be one of the Pope's miracles. Now,
Really?
in order to be canonized, and Pope John the 23rd was canonized in 2014, in order to be enter sainthood, you have to have demonstrated 2 miracles. For some reason, in 2014, they only said that the popes only had to have 1 miracle attributed to them. But but whether you're Catholic or not, I mean, the whole story of Pope John the 23rd is a pretty fascinating one. Again, Vatican scholars have attributed Sheppton to be one of his miracles. The other thing that a lot of people don't know is this. Sheppton happened in 1963, but in 1962, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, Pope John the 23rd was instrumental in communicating with Khrushchev, with Castro, and with Kennedy.
Okay.
They believe he was there. He may have stopped a nuclear war.
He saved us from a total annihilation.
We believe that, yes. I think and that's like an unknown story about him. Yeah, it really is, yeah.
That's kind of
very
cool.
important person.
And it was also the first major rescue, I guess, something like that. It was televised all around the world.
Yeah, pretty awesome. One thing about this story, even though it's 53 years old, it's still current. The rescue technique that they used at Sheppton has been used in Q Creek in western Pennsylvania. That was the mine disaster of 2002. Also in Chile, and there was a 2015 movie called The 33.
The 33, right.
They used the same borehole rescue technique in Chile, and that accident happened in 2010. So what they devised in Sheppton is still relevant, it's still current. Back then, prior to Sheppton, if there was a mine cave-in, they would have to go down into the mine, the shaft, remove the debris, and then re-timber.
Right.
And in the case of Sheppton, that would have taken them something like, they estimated 55 days.
Oh, wow.
So that couldn't
They
happen.
never really
Yeah,
made
so there were some engineers and some other people that devised this borehole rescue technique, and it actually worked.
Is there a lot of current interest in something like this?
Yeah, I think there is. I was in high school at the time. I was 16. My classmates were some of them were 16 or 17. So this was really big news back then in the 60s. We followed this. There was international interest. I mean, there were reporters, media from Japan and Germany and Great Britain. There were thousands of people there at the site. It was an armada of National Guard, Salvation Army, state police, spectators. I mean, it was really a media frenzy.
Did you go down at all?
I did not. Sheppton is only 8 miles from Hazleton,
Right.
But it resonates on just so many levels and so many dimensions.
There were some unbelievable elements involved in this.
Right, and it was
We've come to realize probably were true. Yeah, or we think it's
well, we think, I mean, it's some of the things that happened there were the supernatural, and with science, with the scientific thinking, like because of gravity, the apple falls, so we know that. But when you see the strange lights in the sky, a lot of times we don't know what the cause is. That in the scientific world, it's cause and effect. Many times with the supernatural realm, we see the effect, but we don't know the cause. And Sheppton is all about that. There were many supernatural effects.
Without giving too much away, while they were in the mine, in the total darkness, they said they were seeing things.
They saw things.
And both of them at the same time, so it wasn't one person hallucinating.
Yeah, they saw things. And there was another individual too. Ed Conrad was an old school journalist with the Standard Speaker in Hazleton. Ed Conrad befriended Dave Fellon, the guy that was rescued, and he tape recorded him. He had his testimonies notarized. He took him down to Virginia to meet Catherine Kubler-Ross, who wrote a book on death and dying, and she felt that something miraculous happening there. She thought this was proof of life after death. And she was referring to the Pope John the 23rd, who had passed away prior to the Sheppton cave-in. So Ed Conrad played a pretty important part too in documenting this, and having Fellon and Throne go to see psychiatrists and psychologists, and then they believed that what they saw was true.
Right, they weren't crazy. So
they were not crazy.
They were religious.
They became religious, but at the beginning, Throne really wasn't religious at all. I think there was a conversion in the cave, just because Fellon was a devout Roman Catholic. He also knew about Mahatma Gandhi and Hinduism, so he was sort of a very interesting guy. A hard-headed, tough miner, level-headed, and I really believe that there was this religious conversion down there in the tomb because of Fellon and his relationship with Throne. And another thing too, we know that after Throne got out of the mine, he stopped drinking, his problem drinking, and he also helped found one of the churches in Hazleton.
Were you able to interview anybody else?
Yeah, I talked to Fellon's niece, Carol Zielinski, and she was very helpful. She introduced me to other family members, but she gave me a lot of information. For example, Fellon didn't have a relationship with his brother Joe for 20 years. They didn't speak for 20 years.
Wow.
But Joe Fellon was instrumental in walking up to the mound and stomping his foot and say, "Drill here."
Wow.
And so he was sort of like an unsung hero.
Almost like, how would you know that?
It was dumb luck. It was really dumb luck. I mean, but they found the right space, the right place to go and drill. I talked to Louis Bova's son, John, and John had some interesting things to say. I spoke to several business people from Hazleton who gave me. They knew Fellon on a very personal basis, but didn't want. And they gave me this information, but said that they didn't want their names published.
Okay.
So this was, kept in confidence. But they told me some of the things that he said after he was extricated from the tomb, and some of the things he saw down there. And he said he didn't care if people thought that he was mentally ill and crazy. What he saw was the truth.
What he saw was the truth.
Yeah.
You mentioned Lou Bova. He was the miner that was never recovered.
Right.
And that's where the whole cannibalism aspect comes into play.
Right, exactly. And with the Sheppton mythology, you have a certain element of rumor, innuendo, just those inferences. And I look at that as though, and I try to explore the possibility.
Right.
So I run with that. So certainly the innuendos of cannibalism were one thing, but then the song Timothy by the Boys, 1971, seemed to parallel what happened in Sheppton.
Right.
And the Boys, when they interviewed the Boys said, yes, it was about Sheppton. John Bova said, yes, Timothy was about Sheppton. And
changed some names like that. And the Boys actually were located in Northeast Pennsylvania, right?
They were, yeah. What happened?
Originally from here, anyway.
Yeah, what happened was Rupert Holmes and C. Michael Wright were working at Scepter Records, and they were looking for, they had a record deal, and Scepter was going to let them...
Rupert Holmes, who went on later to do the
Pina Colada
Pina Colada song.
Yeah, and a whole lot of other things. I mean, the guy's really, really prolific, very creative guy. But they were looking for a band to record a song that would get banned. So they wanted to do the controversial song. So at first they went down to Wilkes-Barre. They were going to sign up the Glass Prism.
Right.
But the Glass Prism, they did a song called The Raven. The Glass Prism were under contract to RCA.
As seen here on MetroCast Channel 10.
Okay.
Yep.
And so they couldn't do the Glass Prism, but Tom Verano from the Glass Prism suggested Bill Kelly and the Boys.
Right.
So they went down there and Scepter signed up the Boys, and Bill Kelly had this soaring high voice, and the song Timothy was just a great song. But
so people don't confuse Bill Kelly, not Bill Kelly from WVIA.
Yeah, no, Bill
Different
Kelly from the Boys,
Right.
who's currently down in Nashville.
Right.
Yeah. So so the song was released and nothing happened. Then all of a sudden, little by little, Timothy started to climb up the charts, and then people started to listen to it, and they said, "Wait a second, this is about cannibalism." And so more and more people listened to it. Scepter was backing off; they were embarrassed. But then what they did was they had contests about, who was Timothy? Was it a canary, a man, or a mule? And I mean, Scepter rode that one to the bank.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be a really good hit. What happened to Lou Bova now? We talked about the possibility of cannibalism. What do people think really happened?
Well, I talked to people from Sheppton, and that were there, in 1963, and they said, yeah, that was the word. The word was that they ate him. So, and I talked to people from Schuylkill County. I said, what do you think? And they said, well, it's possible. It seemed like a lot of the people felt that there was that possibility. For as grotesque as it, and there's so many other references in mining disasters where cannibalism actually happened. So,
Henry Throne always denied that.
And so did Fallon, yeah.
Right.
The Chicago Daily News interviewed them, and Fallon said, only evil men would ask such a question.
Right.
That's what he said.
I remember seeing some interview, and I think you saw the same one I did, where they said he was in a totally different chamber, and they were actually separated, so they couldn't even get to him.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. They had little things called monkey shafts, they would put supplies in there, and in case of a cave-in, you could jump into it. So there was one monkey shaft on the west side, and that's where Fallon and Throne were. And then when the debris came down, the cave-in Bova went into the east monkey shaft.
Right.
So
and they never got to him. Supposedly.
Supposedly, yeah.
Supposedly.
Yeah.
We don't know.
We will never know. I mean, I wasn't down there, but yeah.
So as we were talking about, you're a rock journalist and
Yeah.
the Boys and the music. So what made you want to go back and visit something about Sheppton? Was it because of the Boys song?
Yeah, I think that was part of it. But I mean, I've always been fascinated by the coal region in Schuylkill County, and I wrote a book on the Jordan brothers back in, if I may,
Right. Another great book, right?
Yeah, another great book, yeah, from 1986.
Okay.
And I did a lot of research on the coal region and Schuylkill, and I have this fascination for the coal region. I told one reporter down there that I think that in a past life I was a coal miner down there in
You're trying to make good for something or other.
So,
Maybe you were Lou Bova. No, you were already born then, so it couldn't be.
Yeah. So, but it was a story that I'm fascinated by, and as a baby boomer who was there when the Sheppton disaster happened, that's something that resonated with me personally. And also Timothy by the Boys was one of the first rock songs from somebody from our own neighborhood, from
Right.
northeastern Pennsylvania. So I felt that this was sort of my mission to go and document this. And this was my labor of love, and but I think it's not just for me. I think a lot of people it's gonna resonate with a lot of people, like I said, at a lot of different levels.
There's a Berwick connection to the Sheppton?
Yeah, there is, and this, there's, the book gets, like I said, there's elements of the grotesque, of the miraculous, and also the supernatural. I have a chapter called the Hollow Earth Theory, and back in the 30s, a lot of people felt that the Earth was hollow. There were civilizations, there may be flying saucers. This is before we had the technology to really see what was inside the Earth. There was a guy from Berwick, born in Berwick. His name was Richard Sharp Shaver, and he claimed to have been a prisoner of an alien race inside the Earth.
Okay.
And so what he did was he wrote a series of letters to amazing stories.
Right.
And they rewrote his letters, his personal letters, and they called it the Shaver Mystery. But it talked about Richard Sharp Shaver's adventures inside the earth, about the evil people, about him being tortured, and many people believe this. The circulation of the amazing stories went through the roof. And this was, during the 1930s, before we had the technology, before we had a whole lot of entertainment, and they had shaver mystery clubs where people would get together and talk about this. And there were numerous people that said, yes, I too was a prisoner of these devos, and so I don't know what that was, but
Right.
you know, it's pretty interesting, but it does have that Berwick connection.
Well, how does that connect into Sheppton, though?
Well, what they saw was they saw lights and stairwells, and they saw humanoid creatures with lights. And there's similar stories throughout history in other parts of the earth. And this has been documented, and I talk about this. There's some sort of connection, some sort of parallel universes, parallel dimensions. I don't know what they are, but there's commonality.
Okay. The book, again, is called Sheppton, the Myth, Miracle, and Music, and it's by Maxim W. Well, I was calling Max. It's Maxim as well. What's the W for?
Wenzel.
Maxim Wenzel Furek, right?
Yep.
Just Max Furek. Look for it. Where can they get this book?
Order one online from Amazon.com. Just type in Sheppton, Sheppton.
How many pages?
218.
Short, good read about local history. You're going to want to check this out. Again, Sheppton, the Miracle, the Myth, the Miracle, and Music.
Okay.
By Max Furek. Max, thank you again.
Doug, thanks so much.
Good
I really
luck.
appreciate it. Yeah,
I hope you get a lot of sales, and I
Very
hope they
good.
actually read this, because it's a fascinating story. The Sheppton Mind is.
It really is.
And that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again after later.